Oh, here we go again. Risen is an open-world fantasy action RPG developed by Piranha Bytes and published by Deep Silver in 2009, but as of this video, it's published by THQ Nordic. Piranha Bytes left Joe Wood after the publisher rushed the development of Gothic 3. Since Piranha Bytes can't use the Gothic name anymore, they decided to make a spiritual successor with Blackjack and hookers. Not sure about Blackjack, but they certainly have hookers. Unlike with Gothic, I played a Risen game before this, Risen 3. Played it years ago, thought it was hard, uninstalled it, then proceeded back to Pirate Bay to download Spider-Man or something. But now, as a grown-ass man with experience in Piranha Bytes games, it's time to revisit this series. I did videos on the Gothic games, so might as well. The graphics look alright. There are certainly better looking games from 2009, but it's passable for a small studio like Piranha Bytes. If you look closely, you'll see there's a lack of any anti-aliasing and the character models and animations look stiff. But when you're actually playing the game, exploring and fighting, it's not too noticeable. Creating good atmosphere and immersion is still one of Piranha Bytes' strong suits. Walking in the dark lit by a torch in your hand, the sound of creatures rustling in the bushes while exploring the woods, the monster in the cave that growls in the distance but you're not sure what it is, so you piss your pants and decide to go back later. It's still awesome. I can't say for the base game, but it runs well with the unofficial community patch. After Gothic 3, I don't want to take any chances. The game crashed on me twice during my 23 hours of playtime. Not the most stable game technically, but at least it's not Gothic 3. If you played a Gothic game before, you know what to expect. Risen is basically a better version of Gothic 3. You start out weak with nothing and have to work your way to the top. There are two factions in the game and you have to pick one. You can choose the Bandits or the Inquisition and be their errand boy pretty much. I sided with the Bandits for my playthrough. Most of the quests aren't particularly interesting. You just go around talking to people and they call you mean names and you do something for them like beating someone up or fetch something and they suck your dick like, hey, you're not so bad. As for the more interesting quests like the Bandit Camp Tournament arc or helping the daughter of a famous pirate, they're far and few in between. In fact, I don't really remember most of the things I did in this game besides some important story bits. The context behind the quests is boring. It's all just go to some place, get the thing, kill some monsters, and go back to the quest giver. It's fine if it's a bit boring at the beginning since you're just starting to learn about the world, but it doesn't get any better later. Half the game is just going around collecting shit. There are 3 sets of fetch quests in this game. First is discs, then treasure chests, and finally pieces of armor. At least the items don't take as long to find compared to Gothic 3, and they try to mix it up a bit with the armor pieces. To get the armor pieces, you have to go into these dungeons where you have to use specific spells to get around and solve environmental puzzles. It made me feel like I was playing a Zelda game, and was a good change of pace. Just remember to stock up on telekinesis, levitate, and transform to Nautilus spells beforehand. I do wish the devs could have gave better hints on when to use the Nautilus spell. The holes that you need to go into are so hidden sometimes that I had to look up a walkthrough. That's what she said. That's what he said actually. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, how are you supposed to know you can go through the hole there? It looks so blended into the background. Why not have some Nautiluses around the area, or have specific lighting for the specific spells you should use to move forward? Just some thoughts. The camera is a bit weird. When you jump and fall or pick something up from the ground, it takes a second for the camera to catch up, which can be disorienting when you move it too fast. Oh, and if you don't know where to go, open your journal and go to the quest map. After playing like half the game, I noticed the NPCs in journal wasn't giving me enough clues on where to go next. Turns out there's a quest map hidden in the tabs that highlights where you need to go. Shouldn't it show that instead of the normal map when you open your journal? And why is the quest map only available on the journal screen and not the in-game map while you're moving around? Wouldn't it have been more convenient that way? Also, if I'm allowed to bring up the map during gameplay anyway, why not just have a mini-map in the corner of the screen like every other open world game at the time? It's like the devs want to make the game more accessible for new players, but still want to maintain the immersion of the Gothic games, which can be done I think, but not like this. There's no sprinting anymore unless you use a spell, so it's going back to Gothic 1 or 2 gameplay, which can make the game feel slow when traveling at points, and you don't get teleportation zones until halfway through the game. So you better have a road trip playlist ready. Some shit. For the combat, I'll be focusing on the melee side of things, since that's what I used in my playthrough. You can attack, block, and dodge, which is pretty standard fare in a third-person action game like this. When you level up, you get learning points to increase stats that makes you stronger. To use these points, you have to speak with a trainer NPC who can increase your stats or weapon proficiency for a fee. This has been Piranha Bytes' gameplay formula since the first Gothic, and it's mostly the same in Risen. You get new moves and abilities after upgrading your weapon skills, like being able to do longer combos or countering enemy attacks. The combat feels stiff. Dodging is done by tapping a direction twice, which is never a good choice since it's slower to respond than just having a dedicated dodge button, and it doesn't move you very far, so I rarely used it. Same with countering. You have to be really precise with the timing, and the enemies don't telegraph their attacks too well, so in a game where you die within a few hits, it's not worth using. I think it could have worked better if the devs slowed down the attack animations of the enemies a bit more so players can react to them better. With dodging and countering being unreliable, I had to go with the old block and hit method, and if I feel adventurous, go for a combo. That's not to say it'll always work. Enemies like in Gothic 3 still back away from your attacks a lot, and if you try to get close, they quick attack your ass immediately, so I just back them into a wall while blocking and kill them from there. Enemies still come in groups, and the combat isn't entirely built around that, but at least there's a wide attack you can use if you level up your weapon skills enough. Humanoid enemies, especially later on, will constantly block your attacks and break your blocking stance, so you can't even wait for the right time to strike back. The worst abominations to fight are the lizardmen. They're fast as fuck, so they're hard to counter and will clap your ass within a few seconds. Same with these gnome fuckers, always in groups and keep throwing shit at you, even hops towards you like they've seen some dank pussy. The only way to counter the constant blocking is with charge attacks, but even then they'll find a way to reverse trap card your ass, leaving only blood, tears, and cum behind. The character progression is still there. Going from a weak dude to a strong dude is still satisfying to see, but the combat overall is just not fun for me. It's way more fun than Gothic 3, but like, anything is more fun than Gothic 3. Mars Warlogs is better than Gothic 3, though they both are going for different things. I'd rather play Mars Warlogs jank than Gothic 3 jank. I looked at videos of people using magic builds and that shit looks awesome. You can shoot magic bullets from your hands and blow shit up so you don't have to worry about the AI blocking your shit all the time. Plus you don't need to keep buying spells that are needed to progress the game if you can find the right runes. It's like the game was made for a magic build, and that made me, a melee user, die a little inside. The boner is non-existent. It's story time. If you don't want to know what happens in the story, then kindly fuck off. I mean, go to this timestamp. It's an overall average story. There could have been some hype moments, but the devs didn't go that well. In this world, there's a mage dude that banished the gods because he hates them, I guess. And now these temple ruins have risen out of the ground, along with these big titans coming to kill humanity. The game takes place on an island where a group called the Inquisition, one of the two factions in the game, took over a harbor town named Harbor Town and kicks out the bandit faction occupying it, making them start their own camp in the swamps. The story starts with the protagonist castaway dude on a ship going to somewhere when it gets attacked by a titan. The leader of the Inquisition, Mendoza, is also on board, and he tries to fight the Titan, but his magic eye thing starts acting up and he can't see it anymore, so he fucks off, leaving you and everyone else on board to die. You wake up on the island all wet and salty, along with the girl who was on the ship with you, Sarah. She's not an important character. You would think so, as she seems pretty familiar with the protagonist dude in the first cutscene, but they don't even know each other's names. Anyway, you leave her at an abandoned house somewhere and go find help. You find this guy called Jan who gives you advice on where to go next. If you tell him Sarah is at the abandoned house, he will help her. You can become a monk at the monastery, go to the bandit camp to become an outlaw, or go to Harbor Town and do quests for both factions before deciding which one's for you. Just don't try to fight the monks, they'll whoop your ass and kidnap you.
Hey, you're finally awake.
I became a bandit because why not, and start building my reputation within the camp. I whooped everyone's ass, not always with legitimate tactics, but this is a Piranha Bytes game, so I have no choice. Got all the workers back to work, uncovered a secret takeover by Big Boy Brogar here, and found all the pieces to a nice sword which can be used as an introductory gift for Don Esteban, the leader of the bandits, to finally join the faction. The Don tells you to go to Harbor Town to find out if his undercover men are alright and report back. You do a bunch of shit, meet some pirates, a woman named Patty, who's going to be important later, and back to the Don you go. Back at the bandit camp, you become a made man, get your first set of armor, and now you're ready to fuck. Or get fucked. Yeah, mostly getting fucked. Because of the current situation of old temples rising out of the ground with monsters everywhere, no one can get shit done. So the Don wants you to speak with Mendoza about a truce for the time being. At the monastery, Mendoza tells you about the temples and titans. So in the Risen world, the titans are the original beings that roamed the lands until the gods came to stop their reign and allow the humans to rise up. One day, a mage just kinda had enough of the peace and quiet, I guess, and used something called the Dark Wave to banish the gods, but in doing so awakened the titans and ruined temples, unleashing all the monsters into the land. Mendoza has a plan to stop the titans from killing everyone, but he needs you to find 5 discs scattered all over the island to open a door into the volcano, where it should contain a weapon they can use, and also find the source of the holy flame, the source of magic on this island. To find one of the discs, you have to help Patty, who's the daughter of a famous pirate named Steelbeard, find her father's treasure by digging up graves all over the island, in which there's like 5 of. So basically, we have a collectathon inside of a collectathon. How brilliant. The Don has the last disc and you tell him about what's happening. He agrees to give Mendoza the disc if he can have Harbor Town back. Mendoza agrees to the Don's conditions and we go into the volcano where a bunch of lizardmen are hiding, ready to fuck. You go through the volcano solving puzzles, getting gangbanged by lizardmen, and find the ghost of Urzagor, the Titan Lord who fought against the Titans. Urzagor reveals there's actually a fire titan sealed inside the volcano and that you have to open the big gate by collecting some heads and putting them on the altars in front of it. While you're busy cutting heads off, Mendoza spoke to Urzagor about the titan and finds out that freeing the fire titan and controlling it will destroy the island and everyone on it. And of course you can't let that happen, so you want to stop him. Mendoza quickly fucks off again, taking one of the heads to make the gate close and seals himself inside. You talk to Urzagor, and it turns out you can't control a titan without God's help, but you can seal it back into the volcano. Now you have to go around the map collecting parts of Urzagor's armor and weapons to become a Titan Lord. You go back to the gate to have probably the most disappointing fight ever in this video game against Mendoza. You literally just whack him a few times and he's dead. As the guy you see every time you open the game on the main menu, you would think he would be a tough son of a bitch. But he was simply just a bitch. Anyway, you walk into the Titan room and it's all crumbly and shit and fight the Fire Titan. It tries to step on you, make platforms disappear, which sucks because movement is kinda stiff, and shoot fireballs at you, which reminds me of the Ganon fight in Ocarina of Time. It's basically an endurance round, just learn its patterns, dodge shit, and hit it after you deflect the fireballs. It's actually kinda refreshing. While when it doesn't hit you, it just says you jump onto another platform or form an invisible barrier that stops you from getting close, making you fall to your death. So you beat the Fire Titan, humanity is risen, the end. Seriously, you beat the thing, the narrator does the monologue about how humanity has risen, and it ends. So what do you mean humanity has risen? Nothing's been solved. The Titans are still coming. Ah, fuck it. The story itself is pretty average. It starts off with gods being banished and see this big titan fucking shit up, so you would think it would continue going down that route, but nope. It ended up just being a bunch of collectathons with nothing memorable in between. Things get a bit more interesting when I learned about the Fire Titan in the volcano, and I thought I was gonna control it and fight the big titan at the beginning, in an over-the-top kaiju battle, fighting water with fire. It could have been a great end at least, but no, life sucks. There are characters like Don Esteban that has a weird quirk like hoarding gold, but it's very surface level stuff. The only character that I liked is Mendoza. He might be a little bitch when fighting, but he's actually the deepest character in this game. You hear all types of shit about him, like kidnapping people and brainwashing them into joining the Inquisition, but he only did it out of necessity. Mendoza knew the Titans were a threat way before anyone else, so he had to use anything he can get his hands on to stop them. and at the end, even willing to do things for the greater good, even if it kills an entire island full of people. Wouldn't it be awesome if you can choose to let Mendoza go through with his plans or not? After all, you're the one who explored all over the island, meeting a lot of different people, good and bad, that influence your view on the island. It would only be appropriate for you to at least have a say in destroying or saving everyone. But no, you save everyone because hero. Overall, the story could have been more interesting, but balls blew. Risen is an average video game. It retains the good atmosphere, music, and rewarding exploration from Piranha Bytes' previous games, but everything else is just okay to boring. The graphics, while decent at a glance, looks pixelated with the lack of anti-aliasing, and the quality of the character models and animations look outdated even for the time. The performance is fine, for me at least, though the game did crash a couple of times. The combat, while fine for the most part, feels stiff and didn't give me an incentive to use the new mechanics like dodging or countering, since they were way less reliable than the old technique of blocking and waiting for the right time to strike. The enemy AI still has that issue of backing away every time you strike like in Gothic 3, and the humanoid enemies like the lizardmen are fast, hard to predict, and keeps blocking your attacks. The story is boring, with most of it being collectathons, and the characters aren't very memorable except for Mendoza, and the ending is way too abrupt and doesn't solve anything. The best parts of Risen is just exploring the world and finding shit, and transforming from a weak dude to a strong dude. But the thing is, it's been done before, and Piranha Bytes has got that part down pretty well. I just want to see some mechanical improvements next. Make the game not as stiff to play, along with a story that doesn't center around collecting stuff. Helix 2 is coming out next year, and it actually looks different and fun to play, so hopefully it's more smooth. But for now, we're kinda just stuck in this limbo of this thing is good but the other's not so much. I beat Risen in about 23 hours, and there's some replay value if you want to play both factions. It's pretty cheap on sale, like $2 or $4, and even cheaper if you buy the Risen bundle, so if you like the Gothic series, you're probably gonna like Risen. Well, it's been quite a month. My feet hurt from work, and a man high on drugs dragged me out of my seat on the bus because he wanted to sit there, only to stand up a few seconds later. I don't know this world anymore. Anyway, I hope you're all doing alright. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and sub and all that. I'm gonna get back to the grind now. Later.